concentration leads to happiness. We love when the mind's still and concentrated. Most of us are dealing with chronic monkey mind, right? Pretty pervasive right now. And it's so easy to get distracted. We keep coming back, but we keep coming back. And there's something about holding the vision of ourselves and this like repeating the phrases, the mind wanders, come back, mind wanders, come back. That is a beautiful concentration. And one of you could say, the best ways to get in a concentrated state is to love, happiness, and joy actually leads to concentration. All of my meditation teachers used to say that. They would say, oh yeah, you take bliss with concentration, there you go. That's the doorway, because you end up wanting to stay there, right? You lose track. You're not sort of bombarded by all the hindrances, the hindrances of mind, which are always wanting something, right? Usually the mind is such a trickster, everyone. You got to be really careful, because the minute you sit down to do your practice, it goes, well, I should call my cousin. You haven't talked to your cousin in 8 years, but suddenly you have to do it right when you go to sit down, right? It comes up with these little things. And it's like, oh yeah, well, first I'll get some tea. And then we wander in the kitchen. We're done. We never go back into our meditation. We start doing other things. So the mind, one of the ways it hinders you, I want to talk a little bit about that before I talk about the bodhisattva. The 5 hindrances to deep practice, this is what keeps us from waking up, right? Is the first aspect is the one where the mind gets filled with desire. It just craves endlessly. You know that feeling? It's like, I want. We're always looking for something. It's kind of like that catalog mind. You're just like looking for something to want, or Amazon, that's kind of the online equivalent. We look at, 20 million items. We don't have any intention on buying them. We're just wanting something, right? We live in this constant crave feeling. It's actually really, really frustrating. I desire to be desireless. I'm like, please, contentment is highly underrated, that quality. We don't aim for contentment in our culture. What do we aim for? We're like the thirst. And I love how young people use that word thirsty, because that really describes the hindrance of desire. And we feel that on people too. We're like, calm down. What? They're trying to squeeze the moment out of something, right? Other than just being there in it. We have to take a photo of it. We have to video it. We have to, we lose all sight, right? It's like the moment is just the moment. We constantly bring all this desire and thirst, and that is actually the first noble truth is suffering. And the cause of suffering is clinging, thirst, and attachment. Actually, the word means tanha, which means unquenchable thirst. So in a way, the modern culture has it really right. We all know that feeling. It's like, it's really hard when someone's that way too, because it's hard to say, you're really grasping on, it's hard to tell people that. It's hard to see it in ourselves, but important to see. So that's something that hinders our practice, because the moment we sit down in meditation, we go, oh, the light's too bright. It's too noisy outside. I need to go change into yoga pants. These aren't working. We're constantly wanting something out of the moment. I need another cushion. No, this one's not right. We're constantly doing that, and the mind knows no end, craving upon craving. You satiate one craving, guess what? The next one's right there. It's like we're drinking salt water all the time. Just makes us thirstier, and there's no end to it. So just be on the lookout when you set yourself up to practice. Notice all of those hindrances of desire. Suddenly everything becomes so important right when you're about to meditate. The desire of the mind. Also, the second hindrance I just want to mention to you is the opposite of that, which is aversion. This is the, instead of grasping everything, we want to get rid of everything. You know that mind where you walk up and you're just like, everything's wrong today. I just get rid of that sound, that person, that smell, that, we walk through the day and we're just pushing life away. I have to get rid of this kind of aversive mind. It's like greed is the grasp and hatred is the aversion. And the mind basically flip-flops throughout the day between these two. I want, I don't want. I want, I don't want. Notice that it's like a game. The more you start to notice, it's just kind of empty, right? Because none of it really matters. It's on autopilot. It's a program, right? I want, I want, I want. I mean, if you look in the world at all these billionaires, insatiable. It doesn't even matter, right? How much one has is that thirst. I want, I don't want. I want, I don't want. So notice how that begins to hinder your spiritual practices, especially when you set yourself a strong intention of practicing metta. You'll notice these two, wanting and not wanting, will become very strong in the mind, right? As soon as you sit down and go, I'm going to do liberation practice, that program is almost like, it comes on as a distraction. Wanting mind, not wanting mind. Also want to mention the two energies that hinder us from really getting deep in our spiritual practice. And these are also important to look at and notice for yourself. Sleepiness is often what happens. I remember I was trying to teach my mom meditation and she would just fall asleep for like 20 years. I'd take her to any retreat center, any teacher. It could be in front of the row of the Dalai Lama. 2 minutes into it, they're snoring. And I would say, how is this happening? Why are you so tired? We just slept. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's like the mind is just, and that's a hindrance to our practice. So we work with sleepiness. We actually open our eyes, we sit up, it's like the clouds coming in. And actually when you become present, you break out of it. Have you ever had that moment of being really sleepy and then 5 minutes later you are energized? It's that. It changes on a dime. It's just something that happens to a lot of people when they start to do liberation work. They just lay down and go to sleep, right? It's like we don't always want to face things. We don't want to feel. We like to be numb. Even as babies, when babies have, a difficult day, they go to sleep. It's comforting, right? I don't want to be here. I don't want to feel this. Let's go to the dream world, right? But when it comes to our spiritual practice, that if we're not mindful, that can actually hinder our growth, right? It's a hindrance because we fall into it. But if we could just stay the course through the sleepiness, we actually begin to wake up. We can actually bring energy in when we're meditating, when the mind sinks. I remember seeing people as a meditation teacher on retreat. It was so funny when you're out, there were like 100 people in the room and you would see people nodding, and then the opposite, everyone, which is this intense restlessness that comes. Have you ever noticed that? You want to meditate, but you're like, oh yeah, it's like we had 10 cups of coffee. The mind just wants to scream and run away. And so I would see, as I would look on the first day of the meditation retreat, I would see those nodding off and those looking around at everyone like kind of wild-eyed, like they were trapped in they were caught in a trap, And so these are energies that you must work with your practice. They will come up very strong when you're trying to do metta sometimes, right? This intense tiredness, this intense, it could be within 5 minutes, restless and then asleep, so these are just energies that we are balancing. Okay, we're learning how to balance these as practitioners. We could become mindful of the hindrance and they have no power over us. When we're not mindful, we don't name it. That's why I always name, oh, this is just sleepiness. Oh yeah, this is just restlessness. Oh yeah, that's just wanting. Oh yeah, that's just not wanting. We love the sound of birds when we're meditating. We don't like the sound of weed whackers and leaf blowers, So it's just, but it's all just kind of the play of consciousness. So just be on the lookout. The fifth one, and this is very important hindrance to our heart practice, is the hindrance of doubt. Okay, doubting mind. We come on, we start to practice. This isn't going to work. How's sitting here saying a phrase, imagining myself at 5 going to change my, and then we're off on the dark path, right? This isn't going to help, right? And then we get lost in the mind. We start doubting we can do it. We start doubting that we have power. We start doubting that this practice could help. We start doubting everything, the teachers, the classes, everything we've ever learned. But ultimately, if we can catch that, doubt, we stay with the practice and go deeper. The hindrances are a lot of like guardrails, right? They block the road, but if you're mindful, you could go beyond that. You can open the gate. Right? It feels like they're hindering, like we're driving in our car and it's like a roadblock. Right? It's like those gates that go like this, right? Hindrance number 1. Suddenly I must have a veggie burrito, even though I just ate a minute ago and I'm about to practice, or whatever the desire, or whatever. No, I have to go tell the neighbors to be quiet. I need to practice in silence, or I need all these things to not be happening to practice. We can practice anywhere, right? Or we're too sleepy to practice, or we're too restless to practice. And then the doubt tells you lies about who you are. The doubt is really, really the most powerful one, right? We doubt that we can do it. We doubt the power of our own heart, okay? We doubt that the practice is a liberation practice. We just fall into it and it becomes a deep pit of despair. There's nothing more painful to me than self-doubt now. When I get trapped in that one, it's so, because you know what it does? It lies to us and we know it somewhere. And it's just that battle between liberation and doubt. You can go, you can't go. You can make it, you won't make it. It reminds me of Harriet Tubman and all that she had to go through in her journey, right? Doubters. Doubting that she knew the way, doubting they doubt their own power, right? We often do that. You'll notice that comes up when we magnetize something in our minds, right? Bava and I had this experience of doing that. We were trying to create these budgets. Both of us are really, I'm not a business person. Somehow I end up in these positions. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a teacher. Why do I have to make budgets, And I fight against it. Oh my God, it's going to be so hard. And I don't know, sometimes when you have a block, it's not logical. The same with your spiritual path. But anyway, so finally we sit down and it takes us 20 minutes. We've been putting it off for like months going, oh, maybe we need an expert. We just sat down and I was like, why do we doubt ourselves? Why do we know this? And that's the same with your spiritual life, right? To overcome doubt. That was the final test that the Buddha, that Siddhartha had under the Bodhi tree. They said that he was attacked by this fierce demon Mara all night, hours and hours, as he sat with perfect equanimity and perfect concentration. They say that the architect of all the demons is this architect called Mara, right? Wrathful and a trickster. And tried all night to take him out, tempt him with, reminds me of also like Jesus in the desert for 40 days, being tempted by power and greed and desire and all these things. And they say that unmovable, all of that lust and all the temptations, he wouldn't break his meditation. He just sat through it, doing metta, through all the rage and anger and like wrath. And then the last trick that came down, they said in the sutras that Mara sat down very peacefully and just said, okay, like the last veil, who do you think you are? What right do you have to awaken? And so that's a powerful one. Like, what right do you have? So we doubt ourselves. The earth is our witness, of all our goodness and all our prayers, right? We have every right to awaken here. We have every right to recognize our power. And when we start doing that, when we start realizing who we are and stop doubting ourselves, we will rise in an unbelievable way, right? We will live in our authentic selves. We will live fearlessly. So self-doubt, the doubting mind. You see that a lot too in the Bible. Like stories of doubting Thomas was doubting Jesus. And that is just an archetype, the doubter. Everyone's going this way and someone goes, I don't know. Or, just thinking, just that quality. So be really mindful of that with your practice, okay? Be really see into these roadblocks for what they are. When you sit down and you want to do your practices and you've designed that time, no matter what, be on the lookout for those roadblocks. Desire is happening right now. Oh, this happening. Oh, that happening. Okay, see them as that. Name it. Call it out and go, these are what hinders this practice time. Right? And that's how we begin to really work with our energy. Right now is a time to go in. There's so much energy of light happening, of path, of I feel that there is a tremendous amount of awakened energy. It's almost like as the ground is cracking, through the cracks, the light comes in. Right? All the solidity of everything is up in the air. It's not just the infrastructure that's being taken down, the systems. It's our own internal systems are connected to that. So as those crack, what is something new that comes in? It looks scary this time right now. And on some level, I understand that. And on another level, I see this as a very fertile time. A time for tremendous growth and potential as we stop being also sort of in these programs, right? We start to see our true nature. So it is a real time to practice, everyone.